Hello and welcome back. This is my beloved C34 RTR, which is fitted with a 180 motor and which for the last 3 years has been rear wheel drive only. Today that's about to change because the new axle I ordered from WPL has arrived. I am a little concerned, however, because I ordered a C34 front axle and this has different suspension links. It seems to be for the C54. WPL have been in touch. Liam from WPL explained to me that it's actually the same axle. The C34 and the C54 share an axle, it's just fitted the other way up on the C54. So I unbolted this bridge thing from that one and installed it on this one. And now it's ready to be fitted. I've unbolted so many parts and bolted them to the new axle that the old one now comfortably fits on the bench. Here we see the C54 parts I didn't use. The new axle is completely installed, but the bit that I call a bridge, because I don't know what it's called, sort of truss that goes over the top of the pumpkin, unfortunately is one of the parts I had to harvest from the C34, and that had a snapped off bit. It was a shock absorber mount. This bit, just here. And unfortunately I had to super glue that back in place, and replacing that problem truss was one of the reasons I had wanted to change the axle. So that's a bit of a nuisance. We'll see how long it lasts. Also, it's time for me to make a confession. Unlike the 4-link C44, this truck is 3-link and uses a panhard rod. When I was trying to get the panhard rod off at this ball joint, unfortunately I ripped the ball joint out of its mountings. It's a piece of plastic and it simply snapped off. I've super glued that back on as well. If the worst happens and it comes straight back off, as I imagine it probably will, I can see that it would be perfectly possible to order the relevant C44 parts, and all the holes are there, etc, etc. There's provision. It would be quite easy to convert this to 4-link, and that is what I would do. Why am I taking so much trouble to save this particular C34? Because I won it for Tom Lee RC's 5,000 subscriber giveaway a very long time ago. That's why I'm so attached to it and so determined to keep it going. So you can imagine how keen I am to test drive it after so very long. Well, there is a little problem with that. After a frenzied search to find the transmitter, I was successful. However, it does have a problem. The batteries live in this gun type magazine in the butt of the thing, and they are released by exactly the sort of button that releases the magazine on a handgun. Well, it seems that my batteries have been flat for a few years now, and the magazine release button is terminally broken. I can't get the batteries out. This is an interesting challenge, isn't it? Because I'm driven by eagerness to drive the car now, I'm tempted to grab my cordless grinder and attack this machine. I'm going to have to calm down and dismantle this thing and see if I can salvage this transmitter. Well, I removed the 7 screws holding the 2 halves together and was able to pry these 2 apart, and it came out. So now I have to decide whether to go ahead and fix the whole transmitter properly, or just check it works by chucking some batteries in it and slamming it back together, because it may actually not be worth trying to repair. I'm filming in very poor light so that you'll see this. When I push on the base of the magazine, sure enough, the power comes on. So I think I'm going to swathe this in sticky tape and we'll go for a drive. I was hoping the next shot would be one of us going for a happy little drive, but having sorted the radio problems, I'm afraid this happened. Yeah, so I don't think I quite understood the instructions I got from Liam at WPL. With the axle back off the truck, we can see that if I turn the prop shaft clockwise with the axle the right way up, it rolls backwards. So I need to find a way to reverse that. Let's try again, shall we? Oh, that's satisfying. That's the first time this has had four-wheel drive for many years. I just want to quickly make sure it really works before I take it out. Very hard to drive because it only has a 180 in it. The car works better than the driver, but even so, this needs to be upgunned a little, I think.
Well, I've just had a look online, and it turns out that they're still supplying these RTR to this day with a 180 in. Guys, that's not big enough. I thought about buying a C34, which comes with a 370, and just fitting this body. But A, that's cheating, and B, the wheelbase is different. This truck can be lightened in two main ways. I can remove the roof and the front wheel weights. Let's do that. When I looked on YouTube, I realised there doesn't seem to be a single video on how to remove the roof from an RTR C34. And I think that's because when they first came out, most people bought the kit versions and assembled them themselves. So it's never seemed necessary to do a video on how to whip the roof and doors off one of these. However, I find myself in the situation of wanting to do that and having had to sit through an entire build video for the KM kit version just to work out how to get the roof off. So I thought I'd share that information with you guys. From what I've been able to gather, it really is quite simple. There are 4 screws to remove, 2 here and 2 here. With them gone, the whole roof should come off. Okay. I've removed the wheels and also the roof. Unfortunately, I must have had slightly dirty hands because now it's looking a bit scruffier. I had hoped to do away with the seats that cover the rear wheel arches, but as you can see, the arches are not very scale and don't look good without the seats. So instead I've painted them and will be refitting them. These are the original wheels. The fronts are what WPL calls medium softness. They're not that bad, but they've got wheel weights in. The rears appear to have been carved from ebony. They are so hard that it's all I can do, quite literally, to crush one. They're dreadful. And I think when you've got something as gutless as this, when it rolls up against an obstacle, you want the tyre to deform easily to help it ride up onto the obstacle. So with that in mind, I've ordered these. They're generic, pricey on Amazon, cheap on AliExpress, and I have high hopes for them. Our vehicle's going to need a spare fuel supply, and so here we have this colour-coded jerry can, 3D printed for me by my friend Dave. I'm not delighted by the driver. I'm keeping him because he's blow moulded, which means he's very light, but his head is quite a lot too small for his body. Then again, we also have this fellow whose body is quite a bit too small for his head. It's angle grinder time. Here's the driver. He's back in the car because, while he was in the recovery room, I put his rig back together for him. Let's see if it feels any better after some weight reduction. Transmitter's packed up. You just heard me realising the radio had packed up again. At this point, I took the radio from this old truck. As soon as I did that and tried to drive around my test course, I became aware that the bearings in the gearbox are so badly worn that it's undrivable as it is. So the radio went back into the blue truck and I settled down to do some mental arithmetic. If this thing needs a radio at £30, and I may as well upgrade the motor and gearbox to a 370, that's another £20. I'm starting to wonder whether this repair would be cost effective. I think there's a better way. In fact, I know there is. By the time I'd done my sums, I realised that for only £12 more, I could buy this. As an aside, 2 WPLs ago, I received an incomplete brand new WPL model with parts missing. So it's interesting to see that they now come completely heat sealed in this little bag.
So apart from a rather good looking free body, what else did we get for our extra £12? We got a 370 motor with a counter-rotating gearbox, all new, all strong drivetrain throughout, and best of all, we got leaf springs, all for an extra £12. So I'm going to get on with swapping the bodies. Here we see the C94 chassis in all its glory and the C34 body. The wheelbases are very slightly different, but we should get away with that. Time for some body mounting head scratching. Well, it took longer than I anticipated, but here it is. I may need to do a little more weathering, and it would be nice to find a way to mount the front bumper, but here we have a C34 on a C94 chassis. Let's go and play with it. No, we're not. That sounds terrible. Let's have a look underneath. Watch the axle move. Ready? That's much better. Let's see how I did it. If you'll join me at the bench, you'll see that that is the axle that came on this C94. I was all pleased because it was in that crinkly plastic bag, but that meant it was complete. It didn't, however, mean that it arrived fully functional. Luckily we had the axle from the C54, which I bought at the beginning of the video, and that is what is now on this truck. Now, where were we? Oh yes. This is where we were when the radio packed up. Let's try this again, shall we? There ain't no substitute for cubes. Let's try going in the other direction. That's so much easier. We're at the bottom of my steep test hill. I'm doing this more for my benefit than yours, because I think we all know that this is just going to stroll up here effortlessly. Let's see though. Wow. It defeated that quite easily. Right, next challenge. Perhaps I wasn't so wise to remove those front wheel weights that Phil had fitted. The canyon run. C34 around the canyon. I don't think that's ever happened before. Well, I've just cycled to the place where I was planning to record this truck. It's just an area where erosion has created this interesting network of little ravines and gullies. I love recording here. Last night, knowing I was coming here, I took the battery out of this and charged it. Stored it not plugged in overnight, and today it is flat. This keeps happening to me with these little green WPL batteries. We've lost front wheel drive. Well. Here's the culprit. The front prop shaft's missing. Drive shaft in the US. I don't think we'll have to look very far to find it. Back to the studio. I don't want to let this video get too long, but I need to have a quick rant about WPL. Since Christmas, I've been fortunate enough to open no fewer than 3 brand new WPLs. This one arrived incomplete. The truck cab wasn't fitted. One part of it, one of the windows, was missing, and all the screws to screw it on were missing. Then this arrived with a broken drive cup. WPL sent me another one, and then finally this, which for the purposes of this discussion is a C94, arrived with an unusable front axle. And this is the bit that amazes me, all 3 of these WPLs arrived with dodgy batteries. Every one of these batteries will be flat as a board after 2 days. Leave it plugged in, it'll be flat within 2 hours. But with that niggle aside, I think we can congratulate ourselves on what we've achieved here. This is the second leaf-sprung C34 to appear on YouTube, and the first on the C94 chassis. It's good of WPL to make the wheelbases so similar. And I should think next time you see this thing running, it'll be packing a different battery. Anyway, thanks for watching.